How did you and Grandpa first meet?
We met at GE in Ontario, California. It was just before Christmas, and his department and my department got together and decided he and I were going out to the Christmas party together. So they made him call me. They canceled the date I had and set it up for the two of us. That was how we first met. He was an engineer, so he was in a whole different building than I was. See, he really didn't know me and I didn't know him.
I know you and I have talked about this before, but what was your first job like?
My first job was a secretary in an insurance office. Do you want to know how I got it?
Sure.
I had been everywhere trying to find a job, and they all told me to come back when I was 18. And so I went to a hiring agency, and they too told me to come back when I was 18. And so I started to my car, and I got to my car, and this man came up from behind me, and I had seen him in the office there, just sitting, probably waiting to be helped. And he said he owned an insurance company, and he asked me some questions, and I told him, what I was looking for. And he said he was looking for a girl. He said he usually hired the college girls from the town right there. But he thought that because I had at least gone to that place, I really wanted to work, which I did. I wanted to work so I didn't have to go to school. And so anyway, he said to come to his office Saturday and he would interview me and show me what the job was. So I went and I got the job, and I started in a one-girl office.
How much were you paid per hour?
I think it was like 75 cents an hour. And I thought that was good money.
To give a little bit of reference, I guess, what could you have bought for 75 cents?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. You could go to the movies 3 times. I know they were always, by the time I was 17, they were a quarter for me.
What are your beliefs, and how did you come to those conclusions?
What are my beliefs? I believe that Jesus died, was buried, and rose again. And he came to give us life, and he lives within us. And how I became a Christian, well, I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And I'd been in church my whole life. And one Sunday I was sitting in church, and we didn't have junior church, such a thing as junior church then. But I was sitting there, and the pastor gave the invitation. And I looked at my mother and I said, I want to do that. And she turned and looked at me as if to say, well, she did say, what? And I said, what the pastor's talking about. And she hesitated because of my age, but she walked down the aisle with me. And we talked to the pastor, and a week or two later I was baptized.
What is your quote-unquote favorite or life Bible verse?
I do not have a life Bible verse. There are so many good ones in there that I can't pinpoint any one.
Fair enough. So you and I talked about this last night, and so I know you didn't exactly get engaged, but what's your engagement story?
Oh, well, Wes had left for Oklahoma to his next assignment, and I figured he was gone. But in our talks while we were dating, he had made the remark that he would never tell a woman he loved her until he was ready to marry her. And about 2 weeks after he had left, he called and I answered the phone and he said, "I love you." And he swears he never proposed, that I just said, "When are you coming back?" And that's probably exactly what happened. But he came back in 2 weeks and we got married.
What was it like living during the Vietnam War?
In what?
During the Vietnam War.
For me, it really wasn't much different. I didn't know anyone that went to war. And I mean, I heard about all the stuff going on. The nation was getting bad by then. The war really didn't affect me personally very much. My dad was too old for the Army, and my cousins were too young.
Where were you when you found out about JFK's assassination?
I was on my way to my aunt's house in Oklahoma City. And when I got there, I heard it on the radio. And when I got there, she hadn't heard it yet. And so yes, I do remember where I was and how I heard about it.
What do you miss about the good old days?
I miss the type of people, the way people acted then compared to the way people act today. People have a whole different attitude about life today. People were nicer, they were friendlier, they had more values. You didn't hear any cussing on the streets. It was just a purer time. And to me, that's what I miss the most, is just the attitudes and what people think about Christianity. That in itself has changed completely. That's the biggie, I think. And, I miss the fellowship of people that we've known in the past. That people just don't get together like we used to, you know. I mean, used to, our house was the place to go. And after church, somebody might say, "What do you have for dinner?" And they might bring something to add to it, or they might not. But we would just get together and do things like that.
What is, or do you have, a favorite holiday?
Christmas. I do love Christmas, and I love giving presents.
What is your favorite Christmas tradition?
Well, about the only tradition we really have left is I bake a cake and make a birthday cake for Jesus, and we sing. We put the little figures on the cake and a candle, and we sing "Happy Birthday" to Jesus.
Did you ever have a nickname?
No. No.
What was your least favorite and your most favorite thing about school?
Oh, there wasn't too much I liked about school. 6th grade was really good. I had a really good teacher, and we did fun things and learned by actions a lot. And then after I got in high school, well, in junior high, I liked choir. I enjoyed that. Although I wasn't as good as Charlene, and we had the same teacher, so, you know, that made a difference. And then after I left Oklahoma and came to California school, I liked all my business classes pretty well. I had stenography and shorthand and typing and all of the business things.
What was it like going to school when you were growing up versus the kids that go to school nowadays?
Oh, major difference. Again, it goes back to the actions of the kids. And the teachers then were teaching truth, where teachers nowadays don't necessarily teach what is truth. And we had a sex education class, but it was certainly nothing like what they're trying to push on the kids nowadays. It was strictly the human figure, and the girls had their class alone and the boys had their class alone. And it was all about your own body. They have returned. No. So it was quite different. I forgot the question.
What was it like going to school when you were growing up?
Going to school. Kids got to play on the playgrounds, and they could have teeter-totters, and they could have monkey bars, and all the things that they've taken away from kids nowadays. Merry-go-rounds, all the things they've taken off the school grounds nowadays. That was one thing that was different, for sure.
Okay. What did you and your friends do for fun while you were growing up?
When I was growing up, when I was young, lived in Oklahoma. I lived in Oklahoma until I was 15, I think, or close to 15. We did mostly, I would say, church activities. We were always busy doing something, through church. But then we went to the zoo a lot. We lived close to the zoo, the Oklahoma Lincoln Park Zoo. And we spent a lot of time at the park and zoo there. And we went to, can't think of the name of it. There was a amusement park close by. It didn't cost $100 a day to get in there. And in the summer we would go there, well, anytime we would go there. We spent hours in the, I guess you would call it the fun house, where they had all kinds of, they had slides and they had rolling barrels that you walk through. They had all kinds of things that you could do, where you could spend the whole day in there. And then I had a girlfriend that lived on the corner, which was just one house in between us, that was the same age as I was. And she had a house that there was a bedroom, a kitchen, and a screened-in porch that was basically hers. And we played house in there by the hours, a lot. She had a bicycle. She was the rich kid as far as I was concerned. She had a bicycle, and she taught me how to ride a bicycle. And we would ride the bicycle up and down our dirt road, which is what we lived on, a dirt road. And it was just our street. It was like a dead-end street. The creek was at the bottom of it. And we would spend time at the creek sometimes playing. There was a ridge in the rock close to the water. The water wasn't very deep. That was made of sandstone. And we used to play in that, and always carving and sandstone stuff, and imagining all kinds of things out of the stuff we got out of it. And what else did we do? We had a lot of family that lived close by. I had I think it was 13 cousins or something like that. And we spent a lot of time with family doing things. My aunt lived on one side of me, and for a while an aunt lived on the other side of me. And then my grandparents lived next door to me for a while. And so I had lots of family around me, and we did lots of things. Summertime we caught lightning bugs, and just things like that were fun things.
Do you remember your house address?
I think it was 1630 Northeast 35th Street. Wouldn't swear to the address, but that's what...
What town was that?
That was Oklahoma City,
Okay.
Oklahoma.
Who was your best friend while you were growing up?
Barbara Kenner. She was the one who I called the rich kid.
Did you have a curfew, and did you ever miss it?
I think I did have a curfew, but no, I don't think I ever missed it. No, not well, let's see. After I moved to California, I don't know, curfew was never a big deal at our house. We just knew when it was time to come home.
What were your grandparents like?
Well, one set of grandparents lived in California. We had lived in California till I was starting the second grade. So I knew them, but not otherwise, I only saw him once a year after we moved to Oklahoma, which was until I was 15. We just basically saw them once a year when they came to Oklahoma to see us. And they were, he was a step-grandfather, but I never thought of him as that way, because he was the only grandfather I knew on my dad's side. And she was a little short, fat lady who was she was very stern, very, she said what she thought type person, but she had a heart of gold. And I spent one summer with them when I was 13 or 14. Must have been 14. And they lived in El Monte, California, and they took me everywhere that was good to see. Anything that was a tourist in California. And then Kay was a friend that I had known most of my life, and she lived in California. And her I'm getting off subject here. But anyway, we spent time with her, and I'll tell you about the trip to Disneyland later.
Okay.
And he worked on the railroad, and so he was gone a lot. But he would have given me anything I wanted if I had just been the kind that asked for it. You know, they both would have. They had more money than we did, but they were nice. But I did spend the whole summer with them when I was ready to go home. Although I had gained 15 pounds because they had fruit trees in their backyard. And in Oklahoma, we hardly ever got fruit. And so I ate off those trees all summer long, gained 15 pounds. But, and then my other grandparents were totally opposite from the one set. My grandfather was tall and lanky and older. They were both older. I only remember them being old. And but they were both very sweet type. They were Christians, and well, my other grandparents were Christians too. But these two were just, you could almost look at them and tell them they were godly, sweet grandparents. She used to let me play in her jar of buttons. I could spend hours in her jar of buttons. And Papa was just always around to take care of everything. I remember her mostly sitting and crocheting in one house they lived in. When they lived next to me, she used to always call me over to lick the bowl when she made a white cake. And she tried to show me how to crochet. I never did get very good at it. But she was more to do with, and you could just sit and be with her for hours and be happy.
What was the name of your grandparents in Oklahoma and then your grandparents in California?
My grandparents in California were we just called him Dad Noakes. Right now I couldn't tell you what his real name was. And Mom, we called her Mom Noakes. And her name was, I do know both their names, but I can't tell you right now what they were.
So, what were your parents like? What do you remember most about them?
I found Mother very easy to talk to. There was never any doubt with my mom or my dad, as far as that goes, that we were loved. They were very loving parents. They expected certain things, but they never made being obedient difficult. And I don't mean that they just let us run as we please by that, because they had their rules. But they were just very, I think loving is the best way to describe the thing I thought most about my parents. They were both. My dad was rowdy, and his idea of showing love was come up and give you a big hug and see if he could squeeze the life out of you. But he, that was just the main thing about my parents, I think, was just they were both very loving and giving. They never saw anybody in need that they didn't try and help. And we didn't have any money in Oklahoma. I mean, when we moved to California, my dad made $400 a month. They thought we were really doing well. That was more than both of them made together in Oklahoma. But it didn't matter where they, I remember one time in Oklahoma, they found somebody had set up a shack on the corner of an empty field. And I remember going with my dad, and we bought groceries, sacks of groceries, and took to that family. They didn't have any electricity, they didn't have anything. We didn't know them, but we took them food. I mean, that's just the way. My dad stopped anytime somebody was pulled over along the highway. He always stopped. And they were both very, very active in church. In fact, we stopped going to the church, which was a big church where I accepted Christ. But we went to a little tiny church that we could walk across the field and be across my grandparents' backyard and part of the field and be at church. And he was there to open the doors, start the fire in the big old pot-bellied stove. And we had Sunday school classes by curtaining off the room. And by the time we got there, it was a two-room church. But we still had the actual service room, and then we had Sunday school. But we just used curtains to close it off. And they were there. If the door was open, they were there. And as far as, Charlene and I, we were there with them. But I just have to keep going back to the thing that sticks in my mind the most about my parents were the love they showed us and everyone else.
What was one of your favorite childhood memories?
Oh, goodness. I don't have any idea at this point.
Okay. What happened at Disneyland?
At Disneyland, Kay, my girlfriend, her father worked for Disney. And when they opened Disneyland, before it was open to the public, the day before, the week before they opened it to the public, they had all of the celebrities and all the workers of Disneyland, of Disney, could come. And that was the summer I was with my grandparents. And so Kay invited me to go with her to that. And I got 4 or 5 autographs of famous people. One of them was Ronald Reagan. And I still have them somewhere, but I don't know where. But it was a big thing to be able to be there for the first, with all the celebrities. At 14, you think, but we saw many celebrities. I guess I was more enchanted with the celebrities being there than the rides and all that, but it was a full day.
When did you get your first television set, and what was that like?
I don't remember exactly. It was when we lived in Oklahoma. I would guess mid-50s, but I don't remember. My girlfriend already had one. Barbara already had one, so I was used to seeing it, and but it was nice to have it in our house so we could watch more of it, But yeah, I would guess it was mid-50s, but that's a guess.
If you had to choose another era to live in, what would it be?
The 50s. The 50s, because everything was pure, including people. Everybody had a good attitude. It wasn't scary. It wasn't hateful, And I know there were all the same crimes going on, but it was, I don't know, I think just the world had a whole different attitude at that point. And there was much, much less crime, even though there was crime. It was probably 50% less or more. And most of the people in Oklahoma were at least church-minded. They at least knew who God was and that they needed to abide by Him. I guess that would kind of set the climate for that period of time. That it was a happy, the world was still happy at that point.
What is your favorite color and flower?
I don't have favorites.
I'm noticing.
I really don't have favorites. I like like teal. I like different shades of blue. I like different shades of pink. I like purples. I guess maybe you would say, well, I started to say pastels, but I like some of the brighter shades of those colors too. So take your pick. And as flowers, I guess maybe daffodils, because they're so bright and colorful, and they come out the first thing of spring. And but there's others I like too. So.
Who has been the most influential person in your life?
Probably my parents. And I really couldn't say one more than the other. I would have to bundle them together. They probably have influenced my life more than any others.
Can you think of any specific experiences in your life that have molded you into the person you are today?
Well, I would first of all say salvation. And then I would say my asthma taught me a lot. John's back deteriorating taught me a lot. Discovering God's complete grace just topped it all off.
Were you ever voted as most likely to fill in the blank in high school?
I was never voted the most likely to do anything.
Okay. What is one book that, aside from the Bible, that everyone should read in their lifetime?
Maybe the Naked Gospel. By Farley, Andrew Farley.
What is key for a good marriage?
True love. The key to good marriage is don't have expectations. Expectations will always disappoint you. Just take people for what they are and learn to love them anyway. That's probably the best thing that I learned.
And when you say true love, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's a good question. True love is letting God love through you. Because you as a person cannot love some people because they're unlovable. But if you let God love through you, I mean, more than once in my life I have said, Lord, you love that person because I can't stand them right now. And I've been able to turn right around and do something for them or show them love.
Do you have any other special memories from either growing up or just your life in general?
Not at the moment.
Okay. And what advice, and we might have already covered this, but what advice would you want passed down through the generations?
Pretty much the loved one.
Yep, okay.
That's, to me, that's really important, is to learn to love people. I hope that possibly my kids and grandkids can know that one more than, know that I love them more than anything.